Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes, and I'm very, very happy to welcome Mr. Mike Corcione here. He's the author of a book called Tales from the Gutter, and I am very interested to hear some of these stories, as much as you can share without giving the book away. But before we do that, tell us a little bit more about yourself, sir.
Well, my book is based on my life in music, starting out as a kid and a teenager and a fan and somebody that was religiously going to concerts and cashing in. Back in the day when you can cash in soda bottles for a nickel, you did whatever you had to do to get a concert ticket. So my book kind of covers that. And then how I became my first entree into the music business was I was a DJ in a nightclub. It was an after-hours bar, which is an illegal bar. I was 17. This is 1978. And after-hours bar is just illegal. It doesn't pay taxes. There's no liquor license. You can stay, they stayed open. They would open at 2 a.m. and they would close at like noon the next day. So that was how I started as a DJ. And then I was playing disco music. This is the late 70s. And then I just started, I really wanted to be a DJ. I was very in tune to playing music for people, not on the radio, but in a nightclub environment. So I started out that way, and I worked my way up to, I was playing in clubs on Long Island in the early 80s that held, 2,000-3,000 people. I'd end up meeting record company people, and guys would stop by and ask me to play a record. Hey, can you play this record for me? Blah, blah, blah. So I met a lot of people in the record business. Around the same time, I got a job working for a record distributor. And this is like 1979, 1980. And a record distributor distributes records to stores. This distributor dealt with import music. So they imported music mostly from Britain, Germany, Europe, some Japanese stuff, and then they would sell it to stores. And this is an era when there were thousands of record stores. So I started working at this distributor, getting all the hottest import product, test pressings of things that Depeche Mode and Dancing with Myself, Generation X, and all these early, post-punk records that I was playing in the club. I would get these records from working in this record distributor. And that's how I started. I was just really hungry and really driven to be in the business in some way, shape, or form. I ended up, that distributor that I worked for, the record distributor, was called Important Record Distributors, IRD. They ended up starting their own record label called Relativity Records. And then they had a sub-label, Combat Records, that did all the thrash metal stuff. Yeah. So we were distributing, and we had, the big Relativity record in '87 was Joe Satriani, Surfing with the Alien. But you also had Megadeth and Exodus and Possessed and all these thrash metal bands, because that was hot, especially on an indie level. Warner Brothers wasn't signing thrash bands, in that time. It was indie record labels. So I ended up becoming the director of promotions for Relativity and Combat Records in '87, which led me to work for LA Guns. I became their road manager in late '87 into '88. But everything I've done and everything I talk about in my book comes from being a DJ. I wanted to be a DJ, and everything else just kind of fell in my lap, and I just followed the path, man. I was fans of the bands and fans of the music, but because I was a DJ in a very popular club on Long Island, I had the connections. So they would give me, hook me up, tickets, backstage passes, whatever. So through that, I met the guys in Mötley Crüe and Ratt, and those guys in those days were maniacs. Like, just, I've been around a lot of, in my life, celebrities and musicians and actors, and I've seen people party, and Mötley Crüe, the Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx specifically were just out of their minds. It was like a cartoon. It was like almost cartoonish. It was so over the top. And we just connected and partied and, did drugs and just, so it was, and I have pictures of all this stuff. That's the other thing. I didn't end up putting any pictures in my book because it would have cost a fortune. I don't want to sell a $50 book. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the book, the companion to the book is my Instagram account, 1985 Road Dog. And on that Instagram account is all my photos of partying with all these bands. And then, a lot of LA Guns, because I became the road manager, LA Guns, in late 87. Went out on tour with them for their first tour in 88. So yeah, I just tell my story, I'm working as a DJ, but I'm hanging with all these bands, and my friends are now that I grew up with are in bands that got record deals. Kelly Nichols, a bass player in LA Guns, was a roadie for my friend Bruno and Steve, the Danger guys. He was a roadie for their band. They had a cover band called Hot Shot, and Kelly was the roadie. That's how I met Kelly. And so we all go way back. So it's just it was so there was like a like a 10-year span where it was just everybody was doing good. All my friends had gotten in bands, gotten record deals. I was working for record labels, and I started working for bands. So there's about 10 years where it was just everybody was just living because we were all on a roll. Everything was happening for us. And I talk about all this in the book, but the Mötley Crüe stuff is people are really interested in that because of the success of their movie and their another reunion tour, whatever many reunion tours they're on now. I don't know, but people want to hear these Mötley stories, and I have the photos to back up all these stories. I mean, people go, how did they let you take pictures of them snorting cocaine or whatever? I'm like, they didn't care. They were like, more, take more pictures. They were like, we don't give a shit. So that was the thing about Mötley Crüe. Mötley Crüe weren't the heaviest. They weren't the best band. They weren't the most talented band, but they were out of their minds. And that is what people were attracted to. These guys are crazy, drugs, girls, crashing hotel rooms. It was almost like a return to like the days of Keith Moon or something. It was very over the top. And it was almost like that. That is what made Mötley Crüe popular. Yes, their looks and their stage clothes or whatever it was, but they were so nuts. They were like, they would do anything. They were like, it was like a cartoon. So I understand the attraction of why people want to hear and see pictures and hear stories about those days, because we live in a super PC world. It's like, you can't do or say half the things anybody used to, But it was nuts. It's like, well, everybody's like, how come there's been no Me Too movement with all the rock stars? I'm like, because no one forced any of those girls to do anything. They were more than willing. So, it's just funny how rock stars just, kind of got to write off on all that stuff, and it'll never happen again because everyone's got a camera on their phone now. So,
no lie.
Yeah,
the heyday of all the heavy metal and everything. I was in high school, and it was like a badge of honor to wear a concert shirt with bands like Mötley Crüe and all the other party bands, and that I don't know, it gave that illusion of you're some tough guy, and I party too, and that's what we did on the weekends. Was everybody was getting drunk, everybody was getting high, and we partied way too much. I don't know how I'm still alive from all the drinking and drugs that I did from back then. I mean, by all rights, I should be dead, but I mean that was the scene. Then the crazier the band is, like the more popular were. Like I said, they may not even be the most talented, but you had a rep, then people wanted to wear that shirt. They wanted to buy that record.
Absolutely. I mean, Motley were over the top with all that. I mean, if you really examine some of the stage raps that Vince Neil would spew in those years, 84, 85, in there, I mean, he was insulting half the audience and people would just yell and yay, more, it was just a time, man. It was the 80s. It's never happened again. I mean, it was just a crazy time of, and again, I put it down to no social media, no cell phones, no internet, that gave everybody instant access to everything. If you weren't at that Mötley Crüe concert, you don't know what happened. No one had a phone or video of anything. You had to go to the show. Maybe you had a couple photos that you had to wait to get developed, but you had to be there. So the internet and the social media and everything's ruined everything because it's instant access. I would say if social media existed in 1984, I wouldn't have to write a book because it'd be all over my social media. So, so it's really taken that special, you had to be at the show or you didn't see it. It wasn't like somebody posted a YouTube video the next day so you could catch up, so it just changed everything, the internet and social media and how people view bands and rock and roll. It's just, it's not the same. I mean, you had to go to the concert back then. Now you don't have to.
And do you have a website or do you just, you have a site to sell your book?
Probably the easiest way to get in touch with me is if you go to my Instagram, 1985 Road Dog. And then there's a link in my bio of my Instagram for my link tree. So if you go to my Instagram, you go to the bio, you hit my link tree, and you've got all my links to get in touch with me, info about ordering the book, info about my Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. So 1985 Road Dog is the Instagram, and then go to the profile and click the link for my link tree, and you get all my info there.
Well, I definitely want to share that in the description so people can find you easily. And man, I can't thank you enough for this. This was enjoyable, kind of reminiscing in a way, I suppose.
Very nice conversation. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, of course. And, if you have any future projects, I'd love to have you back on, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what that might be, but you never know what's going to happen. And if so, Billy James will know about it.
There you go. Well, again, thank you. And I want to thank all you folks out there. If you've happened by the channel for the first time, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. For my regulars, and you guys make it possible for me to do this. And there's no words to tell you how much I appreciate that. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network